Okay, I'm going to go over the Numark Mixdeck Express DJ2 series system. The system is comprised, you look at the bottom here, because of the table I have it laying on its side. You don't necessarily have to have it that way, it just depends on where you put the sub. This is a Peavey PVXp powered 15-inch subwoofer paired up with two Peavey PVXp powered 15-inch speakers. Then you have the Numark Mixdeck Express, which is in a case. There's the lid for the case. Then I also put the microphone in here. That's optional whether or not you do that. I have the wireless microphone and Audio Technica digital wireless microphone here. Set the laptop on the top. This is just a demonstration. Then you have headphones, speaker stands, speaker cables. The Mixdeck Express has built-in CD players, so it's for DJs that still occasionally want to play CDs, but they want to be able to pop back and forth between CDs, between the digital software, which is either going to be whether or not you have virtual DJ. This one comes with the trial version of Serato, but it's going to be 100% compatible with both virtual DJ and the Serato. What we're going to do after this is we're going to go ahead and go over the hookups. So I'm going to pause the video and then I'll go ahead and go over all the hookups in the back of the system. Then we'll come back around to the front and go over the functions of the system. Okay, when putting the system together, you're going to take your laptop stand, expand it. It has the legs that go out here on the bottom. Then you have on the top. Then you go ahead and take your Mixdeck Express, whether you keep it in this case or not, you could do either way. Set that on there. Put your laptop on the top. Take your wireless microphone, take the XLR cable from here, go right down to the middle here where it's a microphone input, plug it in here. Take your USB, which is right back here, and then take it to your computer right here. Then, because we're using a subwoofer, if we were only using two 15-inch speakers, we would come out left and right with XLRs and then into the back of the main speakers. Because we're using a subwoofer right now and we're not using any type of processor or rack system and so forth, keeping this completely compact, I'm just coming out of one of these channels. So you could come out either left or right, and then you change the switch from stereo basically to mono. Now where this leads, it comes out and then it goes into the back of the subwoofer. You'll see right here, this is the input of the subwoofer. So this is what's coming out of the mixer, right into the input. I realize that the subwoofer is laying on its side, so it's a little awkward as far as looking at it via video. Then you have two cables that come out, and this is called a high pass output. And these are female ends. They're going to go into each one, and this is for your left and right speaker, vice versa. And then it comes out and goes into the back of your speaker. Input right there. You'll notice that we have the volume all the way up. You could typically have the volume is up here. You could think of 12 o'clock when you think of a clock, and all the way to 5 o'clock. Then over here is basically just in case you ever want to hook up more 15-inch speakers, you link them into each other. Going back down to the subwoofer, there's three control knobs back here. There's one right here, which is the level, which I have that all the way at max. Then you have the crossover. I have that at 80 Hertz. Typically between 80 Hertz and 120, dialing up. Go ahead and test it anywhere you want. Some people have a preference of what type of bass they like to hear. Then also, you have a Cosmos processor, which is exclusive to Peavey. And this basically, the best way I know how to describe that is it basically gives you the illusion that there's more bass. You'll see that I have that if you think of a clock, it's right around 1 o'clock. And then also, this also has a link to be able to link another subwoofer into it. But if you ever use two subwoofers, we would actually hook this up a little bit different, where you would have one coming out of the left, one coming out of the right, going into each subs, and then one coming out of each sub into the mains. So this basically goes over the hookups. Now we're going to go over the functionality of the system. Before going over the functionality of the system, the one thing I do want to mention is when you power up the system, in the back here there's a power plug. Your digital wireless microphones do not have a power plug. If they're plugged in, they're going to power up. Make sure you power up all your electronics first before the speakers. And then when you're ready, you power on the subwoofer first. Then you power on your speakers. Once those are all powered on, you're good to go. One of the things you want to remember, when you're powering down the system, opposite of powering it up, you have to power the subwoofer down first, the two speakers, and then the components. So it's reverse. Okay, now that you have your system powered up, when the controller's powered up, the lighting makes it a little difficult for you to see this. So I'm going to go ahead and explain. Every time I'm talking about the display, I'm going to mention what I'm looking at. Right now it says no disc, which means it defaults to CD. Okay, so if you look over here, you'll see that you have a source button. So you can change from CD to USB-A, USB-B, and your computer. Now what the USB-A and B is basically saying that you could use either side of these decks with a thumb drive. So if I stuck a thumb drive in here, and then I told it I wanted to go to the USB-A, I do USB-A, and then this button is the push button, and it will bring it to that. So I could do the same thing here, hit source, go to USB-A, and it will say USB-A in blinking, and then I go ahead and bring it in. Now, what I did was I told both these sides to run off of this thumb drive. And you could do vice versa or have two different thumb drives. This is more so you don't have to worry about messing around with, you know, you have one song you want on here, but then you have another song you want on here, but you need to fade into it. That's where separating this deck and allowing it to do all of that is a great feature. Now, what I said was this automatically goes to CD. So having it on CD, it will say no disc. You have feather decks. Just, I mean, barely hold it. It'll bring it right in there. It will load it. It'll start to read it. And then it will show how many songs is on there and so forth. And then not only is this for pushing, finding a song, or I'm not, sorry, the source, you could also scroll through your deck, find the song you want, and then press that number for the song that you want. So when you're playing CDs, you'll see that it's already ready. So if I wanted to play this side, start playing. One of the cool features is if I just go over fade to the right, it's going to automatically start the right deck and stop the other one. I love it. And then of course you just pause it when you don't want to use it. Okay. Playing CDs is pretty simple. You have on, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna talk about the right side first, because once you understand the right side, you understand the left side. You have a cue button, which is basically queuing up the song, listening to a part of it that you really like, and then it will bring it back to basically the beginning. Play and pause. You have pitch bend, and most often if you want to speed up the song, slow it down, you're able to mess around with the controller right here. This also has different abilities right here, which is scratch features right here. You have reverse, search, break. These are all features that it has. It also has up here, if you were playing a song, let's go ahead and play one. In, out. So I just made a loop. And then reloop. So I basically told it to go back into it. So above this you're able to program it. It has a mode, the time, basically saying how much is left on the CD and so forth. And then if you're utilizing the thumb drives, you're able to go into different subfolders in that thumb drive to find the music that you want. It's not very elaborate, but the reason why you have this controller is to have thumb drive backup, to be able to play CDs. But the most important thing this is used for is to be an enhancement or a physical controller to what you're used to doing on your DJ software. Let's go to the middle here. You have, of course, the fader. That's fading left to right. We set up each deck, left and right deck, on channel 1 and channel 2. And then channel 3 is your microphone. So the wireless microphone's set here. Up here, you have a master volume. So you have master volumes on your speakers. That's where you set them first. Then you set the master volume on here. This could go up further, but I feel comfortable right here. And then you have gains on each channel. You'll notice that the audio, left and right, are set a little bit higher than what your microphone is. The microphone's going to be much more sensitive. You'll see that I have the toggle switch over to auxiliary, microphone 2. But if you ever wanted to hook up another device, you just click it over to auxiliary. You'll notice at the top here, there's another master volume. This is a master volume for your headphones when you're listening to the decks. And then you'll notice that I have it set over on Q so that you're able to listen to a deck. So basically what you would do is you would take your headphones. If you want to listen to the deck over here, so let's say we're over here and we're playing this song, you can hear everything, but you want to listen to the right deck. You would cue this deck, make sure the fader's over here so no one could hear it. So once you press, you basically hear it in the headphones. You don't hear it on the actual system. Okay, now you notice that we have the toggles here for CD. It stays on CD for the thumb drive, I believe, as well. So we'll go ahead and choose the thumb drive. We're done with the CDs. One of the things I will tell you is if source is not on CD, you're not going to be able to do anything with the CD player. So it has to be on the actual CD player. Now look what happened here. See how I'm pressing this and it's doing nothing? It's actually playing disc. I need to stop it before I could even eject it. Okay, so if I'm done with that and I want to switch to USB-A, press that. It blinks up here. It says USB-A. Choose that. Once you start playing it, like I said, you have the scratching, or this is searching, scratch. You're able to do different effects, reverse effect, same thing, looping and so forth. And that's just using the simple thumb drive, fading back and forth. Unlike the CD deck that's made to automatically start the other side, the thumb drive will not do that. You have to fade over and press play when you want to fade over on the deck. And once again, when we're talking about the thumb drive, you could play off of this thumb drive on this right side. So I just choose USB-A, press enter. Now I have the same songs over here that I have over here. So I'll go ahead and choose 4. I know that I'm playing over here, want to play the next one, and I go ahead and go over to the next one. Now, once you're done, you're not using a thumb drive or anything, go ahead and take that out. And then let's say you want to do your computer now. You go to MIDI PC, press in. Now what will happen is once we're on the PC, we're going to switch toggles to PC. Okay? And what you do is you open up your software. In this case, we're using Virtual DJ. You could use Serato as well. So I'm going to go ahead and activate it. Now once it comes up on your digital screen, it says Virtual DJ. So it shows that it's hooked up to there. And then you go ahead and get your playlist, wherever your playlist is. just go ahead and grab any song, drag it up, start playing the music. Now, the controller is entry level, so it's going to do 30% of what it does up here, meaning the most important thing. So if all you were using was a computer and not a controller, you would basically press play in order to play the song. So you would play it up here, and then if you needed to go over to the right deck, you would play over here and basically just fade over, fading left to right, or a regular mixer would do it. So let's go ahead and do this. Actually, hang on. All right, well, this is a good problem to have. Doesn't matter how many times you do this, you could run into issues. Right now, it's not letting me play it, and it might be because I set it up before. Let me go ahead and quit. Okay. Go back in. Put one over here. Let it load up. Alright, I need to figure out what's wrong, so go ahead and pause the video. Okay, pause the video a minute ago, and actually it's good that it happens because it's not often you run into a problem, unlike maybe the consumer would or the DJ, but I ran into a problem. I couldn't understand why it wouldn't play anything, so I'm pressing play and so forth, and it wasn't doing it. And the reason why it wasn't doing it was if you right click into your speaker icon, and what you do is you basically, if I disable this, see how it's disabled, the Mixdeck Express? And that's how it might be when you first set it up. Your sound card might not even be on. And then what happened was I couldn't play any of the decks. See how it's not playing? So the first thing I did is I went in here to the playback devices. And I noticed that this was disabled. So I enabled it. Now, see how I'm able to play? That starts the song over. So set up another song over here. It's ready to go. I have the ability to press here with my computer, or just go down here and go to the next song. So it's the same thing. See how I can start it over? So I'm able to go between each of them now. So once you're done with that, you're on your headphones, you're listening to the next deck. Make sure you set up another song. You know, you're going to get used to it where you're able to do different things. So I'm able to pause it from here, or up here. Now, like I said, there's the scratching and stuff like that. You could do that stuff in here, but this controller is designed to at least do the basics of this software. And it would take another type of controller. They have more expensive controllers that does a lot more, and one of their most expensive ones would basically mimic everything that you would need. Everything that you could do on here, you could do on the controller. But the cheaper ones, the more economical ones, you're able to do the basics, which is the most important things with the software. And that's pretty much it as far as running this. It is more elaborate. All you have to do is ask questions on how to use it and so forth, and then we'll just go ahead and help you from there. Another thing I want to go over is actually there's a couple ways to do the volume. There is using the faders going up. So if I'm playing a song, the fader's all the way down, I'm bringing it up, listening to it. Now as you go up with the fader, when you have powered speakers, you have to watch the back of the speakers. So let's go ahead and look at the back of the speaker real quick. You want to make sure on the subwoofer on this, you always look at this and make sure it's in the green. If it's going in the red, it doesn't mean that it's a bad speaker. It simply means you're trying to push it too hard and you need a bigger system. That's one of the biggest mistakes DJs make, is they try to push a system beyond its means and then they wonder why it breaks. So make sure it always stays in the green, keep it out of the red. Same thing here. When you're playing the music, as you bring it up higher, you're going to start to see the LEDs. Now, because I have this a little bit lower, it's probably not going to come in as quick. Now, when you're running this, you set up your masters, like I mentioned earlier, then you have your gain here. There are some DJs, the way they'll do this is they'll turn their gains all the way down. They'll have this right around 12, and then they'll turn these all the way down. Right here, make sure this is all down, and then what they'll do is they'll bring this all the way up so they can level it out, and they start bringing up the volume here. So you see what we did? There's two ways. There's setting your, which I'm going to keep them like this, just to have them like that, and then you bring up the volume from here. That's one way of doing it. But some DJs like having their faders all the way up, so that way if they fade back and forth, they're always working with the same level. And they just keep it that way. They put it up as loud as they want for that room. But for purposes, like I said, for this system, we're going to go ahead and just fade them up from here. Now, one way to EQ a system in a room is you listen to the system, get rid of all the bass, then start bringing it in. Basically bring the bass to where you want. See how the mids, you bring out the mids, start bringing it in. Bring it to where you want, where you feel like it's good, and stop right there. Do the same thing with your highs. Now your microphones. One big thing about the microphones, I'm turning the speakers so that they're behind me. This microphone is an Audio Technica digital wireless microphone, good enough for an entry-level system for a wedding DJ. When you turn this on, it has a button on the bottom. Hold it in. It's going to have a green light. Check 1, 2. The speakers are really close, so you're going to get ringing pretty quick. Typically, you want your speakers at least 10 to 15 feet apart from each other, no less. I see a lot of DJs that put their speakers right next to each other, and they wonder why there's a lot of feedback. But the further I move away from these speakers, the further the speakers are from each other, it's going to sound better. And then always make sure that your gain for the microphone is down lower. And you'll see how quick this will feed back if I go up higher. Check 1, 2, see? That's what DJs don't want. And just trust me when I tell you, there's nothing wrong with the microphone. There's nothing wrong with the station. It has to do with how you position your speakers and making sure that no one's standing in front of your speakers. But if you have to talk in front of the speakers, you want to make sure that the individual is at least 15 feet out in front of the speakers. Then you'll have less of an issue. You'll notice that I turn the bass down a lot because I don't want to hear that type of bass. Listen to what happens when you bring in too much bass. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. So you hear that loud ringing. Check 1, 2. When EQing this, you EQ it no different than you do your music. Kill each channel, start bringing it up, make sure that it sounds good, and then stop it there. The wireless microphone, if you click it, see how it brings it into red? Check 1, 2, that's mute, but it's still on. In order to turn it on or off, you need to hold the power button in until it turns off. And that's pretty much it for the system.